I'm going to ask Ben and Caysie if they'll come up. They both serve at Reformed University Fellowship at UGA, and we'll let them share for a few minutes.
Thanks, Dee. And Chris, I don't know if we've even met, but I was with a student this afternoon who kept referencing you in conversations with you. It was Tate Bennett. Josh was with us in Puerto Rico last week on our missions trip. Several of your sons and daughters have been or are now at RUF, at UGA. Your missions philosophy at this church has become our missions philosophy that we're training our students in year after year through y'all's influence. And so I love just the interwovenness of RUF as a ministry of this church at UGA. And so even being here in unscripted ways, seeing more and more of the ways we're connected. The importance of campus ministry. So Anna and I have 4 kids. This is the most well-behaved one, so he's here. He's 8, and we have one of those measuring boards in our hallway where at their birthday you measure their height and see through the years. And in 8 years, he's 5 feet tall almost. And the thought struck me the other day that in the next 80 years, as the Lord gives him those years, he's only going to grow about another foot. And it astonished me how much growth happens in such a short amount of time before we kind of plateau out and growth becomes more incremental. Our kids, most nights of the week, wake us up with growing pains. My knees hurt, my legs hurt, my feet hurt. They're growing. College ministry happens during one of the most significant and intensive growth spurts of a human being's life. Even their brain is coming fully online. We don't know about the male brain. That's a little later than the female brain, but you're finally able to ask and explore and consider deep, meaningful questions. Life itself is finally forcing you to deal with reality, and we see that every day. Everything ripens in our students' lives, and so this is like the boost phase of a rocket. If you change that trajectory even 1 or 2 degrees further along in its journey, it's hundreds of thousands of miles in a different place. That's the importance of our churches and our denomination being present and engaged and in the conversation on our college campuses. And it's one of the things I love the most about the PCA and the churches in our presbytery like Chestnut Mountain is you have taken responsibility for UGA's campus. Caysie will tell you maybe just a short story of the fruit that comes from that, but thank you.
Yeah, for those of you guys who don't know, my name is Caysie, and first just want to say thank you. There's a lot of you in here who I haven't met, but many of you who I haven't met respond pretty frequently to the email newsletters that I send out, and that is just really sweet and really encouraging. So thank you all for the ways that you support and pray for the ministry, even when we haven't actually met in person. That just really means a lot. One of the things that I get to do with some of our leadership girl students throughout this year is get to talk with them and pray with them consistently, and I wanted to give them some opportunities to be able to track what we are praying for in the meetings that we have over the course of the year so that they're able to kind of look back together at the end of the year and see the ways that God answered prayers, for them to be able to have visual and experiential representations of asking God for things and then waiting and looking and seeing how he decides to respond or not. And it's a really cool thing because part of just, again, kind of talking about growing pains is as a Christian, sometimes you pray for things and you get to see God answer those prayers exactly how you asked for it. And sometimes you pray for things very fervently and very consistently, and you don't see God do what you ask for. And either of those things are really important spaces to get to sit in with college students and to understand what it is to be a Christian in either of those circumstances. So that's been a sweet thing to get to do with some of our leadership students over this year. And just a couple of weeks ago before spring break, I sat down with a student who was one of the girls that I had some question marks going into that process, mostly because she's much quieter. She doesn't love to talk about herself, doesn't love to kind of open up and share things. But this specific time, she had a level of excitement about her sitting down that was like very new, very unique. And she, unprompted, told me 3 different stories about 3 of the different things that we had been praying for over the course of the semester. One of them was a conflict situation with her roommate where she was like, I really think I need to talk to her. And so we had prayed for wisdom in that. And her roommate had actually come home one day and started that conversation with her and asked if they could talk about things, and she didn't have to even bring it up with her roommate. And another one was a girl, I had been asking them about people that they wanted to pray about inviting to RUF or being more invested in their lives. And one of them, we prayed about her, and the very next week she said yes and came to RUF and was there, and it was our costume large group, and she had like dressed up for Halloween with this girl. And it was just really sweet to get to hear each of these 3 stories of her being able to look back and track the work that God had done through the things that she had prayed for. And was just cool that that wasn't even something that I had prompted in her, that she was excited to come and talk about that and share about the work that she was seeing in God's life, or that God was doing in her life through that. So those are just some of the really sweet things that I get the privilege to hear from students day in and day out. And so again, just want to say thank you for praying for me, for Ben, for the rest of our staff, for the students, because God really is at work in the lives of students at UGA.